All right, guys, welcome back to Blueprint Drawing. Today, this is video one in a several-part series on how to draw the blueprint for a model house project. You will need several things in order to complete today's activity. The first thing that you will need, of course, is a sharp pencil. It needs to be a sharp pencil, preferably a pencil with a white eraser. The white eraser is going to be very useful. If you do not have a white eraser built into your pencil, you can use a detached white eraser like this particular style of white eraser, which I use every now and then. But you will need a sharp pencil with an eraser. If you use a number 2 pencil, you will also need to have a pencil sharpener for any of these old-fashioned wooden pencils, but I prefer to use this mechanical. You will also need a ruler. You will not be able to do today's activity without a ruler. Please do not attempt it. You will just be wasting the paper. Wait till you get a ruler. Actually go and get a ruler. A ruler is something you should have. It's essential supplies. You can get them at the dollar store for 50 cents. Everybody should have a ruler. If you need assistance getting a ruler and you just absolutely feel like you can't get one, please let me know. I will help you out. Next, you will need a brush of some sort. It doesn't have to be a fancy drafting brush that's professional like this one. This is for getting rid of all the eraser schmudge, like crud that ends up on the paper. You can also use a piece of paper, like this little piece of paper, and you can just use this to flick away all that stuff without using the side of your hand and smearing the lead. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to use your hand. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to grab my pencil, and we're going to get started. The next thing you'll actually need to have in order to do this is the correct size piece of paper. This paper needs to be an 18 by 24 inch piece of paper. I have provided this to everybody who has one of our kits. If you don't have it and you need to pick one up, please let me know. I'll work with you somehow to get it. But please make sure your paper that you're working with is at least an 18 by 24. If you have a bigger piece of paper, then you can draw square lines on it to the size of 18 by 24. And we're talking inches here, 18 by 24 inches, to have the exact same size that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to start by, on one side, we are going to be creating the title box. Now, let me just kind of show you what we're creating here. So this is what we're going to be drawing. And over the course of several videos, we'll have completed the entire thing. But we're starting with just the title block here. So this title block on my particular set of plans is exactly an inch. So we need to start out with a 1 inch title block. So in order to draw a straight line, what you will need to do is first you'll need to mark a couple of points. So from the edge of the paper, I'm lining up 0 to the edge. I'm going to do this very accurately. I'm going to put a little mark right at 1. I'm going to do this again in the middle of the paper somewhere. Put a mark right at 1. And then I'm going to do this again near the top of the paper somewhere. I'm going to put a mark right at 1. From these marks, I will then be able to trace, I will be able to connect the dots, okay, using my pencil in a pulling motion. Then I'm going to use the next point and the old line together to create the rest of that mark. So that gives me the straight line across the side of the paper. Now, in order to get the first box, the box needs to be a 1 inch square. I know that my ruler is the width of my ruler when I lay it down on the paper, it is 1 inch. So I can just use my ruler to make my box. If your ruler is 1 inch, you can also do this. If not, you will need to measure a couple of points that are 1 inch each, and you will need to then draw from a couple of points. Now, the next space for the date is 2 inches. So I'm going to take the ruler, orient it like this so that you guys can kind of see it, and I'm going to lay my 0 right on the last line that we drew. I'm going to put a point at 2. I'm going to come back to the edge of the paper, and we're going to put a point at 2 inches. And now I have 2 dots again. And from these 2 dots, we're going to draw a straight line, connecting my ruler to both dots, and now I've got my line. Now I need to make the next box. The next box is going to be 4 inches. So I'll put my ruler on the line nice and straight, put a mark at 4, put my ruler on the edge of the paper, put a mark at 4, and then from there I can connect the 2 dots. And I'm always using 2 points because I want everything to be square. If I created 1 point and I put my ruler on there and just randomly drew it, these lines would be like crooked in this direction or that direction, and that's not something that you want as a professional draftsman. We're practicing a professional skill set here, which is drafting. It's a professional trade job, and draftsmen have to turn in plans that are very particular, very neat, and very orderly. If the plans are not accurate and attention is not paid to details, then your house would be built in a very funny way and possibly wrong. And that's very important, that the draftsman has the ability to accurately convey the language of what he wants on paper, and that everybody else can read it. Otherwise, people could get hurt. So, I know some of you guys out there don't do much writing. You don't like writing, or some of you have really sloppy handwriting. Well, there's only one way to get better at that, and that's practice. So, you need to be able to convey your thoughts. Drafting is a different skill set. Again, I'm just drawing 4 here. These are boxes that are 4 inches each, okay? Drafting is a skill set that is like writing, only it's a different form of drawing. It's a language. It's a plan engineering-based language with symbols and conformity that we use on a regular basis. Okay, so I have an area for the date. I have an area for the project information. Then I have an information spot or client information spot. And then I have my draftsman, or your information. And then I have an area up here for all the changes that would take place in a typical blueprint. Let's fill in the first lower section, this little square. Now we don't have multiple pages, we only have 1 page, so we can only do half of the square. But we're going to start by creating a diagonal line through the corners of the square. And in a very neat handwriting, you're going to do this slowly and neatly. If you have to, use your ruler. It's okay to use your ruler to help you draw a straight line. Okay? I'm going to draw my 1 here. Okay? This is page 1 of, we don't know how many this thing could be. Realistically, we're only going to have 1 page, so it would be 1 of 1. But since we don't have any more pages yet, I'm just going to leave that bottom area blank. If we were to add on to it later, then we would know that this is 1 of 2. Whenever we're done, we fill in this bottom corner when the plans are all finished. Then next, in order to put all the words over here to the side, we need to do that very neatly. You're going to be graded on neatness for this. Okay? So it's important that we measure out and divide the space. I'm going to put a dot at 3/8 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch, which is another 3/8 down, on each line. So I'm going to come over here and come down 3/8, then 3/8 again, which is 3/4, again 3/8, 3/4, 3/8, 3/4, and then on this one last line, 3/8 and 3/4. And then my ruler should be going through all of these dots. So what I want to do is I'm going to take my pencil and put it on the dot first, so this is really accurate. Swing my ruler over to the top dot as far as I can get to. And this line that you're going to draw here should not be visible when you're done. So this is the lightest pencil line you can possibly draw. I'm not going to put any pressure downward on the pencil. I'm only going to drag the pencil back, letting it rest in the groove to here. I can see the line. I don't know if you guys can see the line, but it's going to help me draw in a very straight, organized fashion. I'm going to keep all my letters clean and straight. Okay? The line is very lightweight so that it can be easily erased to invisibility. Gotta be able to make that line disappear. Okay? So you can see how I did them a little bit. That camera will focus. You can see how they're a little darker up here. I've got the same lines going all the way through. I just did this for the camera. But we're going to have to erase those lines when we're done. So I'm going to set my ruler aside. And let's see if I can bring the camera a little bit closer. We'll zoom in for some detail here. And so I have some very light lines in here. And in this first box, we want to have the date, okay? So I'm going to write date. You want to have it relatively center as best you can. What is today? Today is Monday. So I'm going to write on here 9/27/2020. Okay, you want to keep all the letters the same height all the way through, and these invisible, very light lines are helping me do that. Okay, I know that they might be hard for you guys to see in the video, but I definitely have them here, and I'm going to just very lightly rub my eraser over them, and then I'm going to use my index card. You could use your brush. Oops, excuse me. And I'm just going to get rid of that little crud there in the same way, okay, so that those lines are all gone. And then we're going to do the next box, one box at a time. This next box is going to have your project information on it. So what are we drawing, in other words? We are drawing the framing plan for our project. So you normally wouldn't label it, but since we're practicing, I'm going to have you label this. And I want this to say project plan or project information or info. You don't have to write out all of the information. Let's just say it's project info or project plan, okay? So I'm going to go... I'm thinking in my mind what the spacing is so that I get it nice and center here. So I have project info, and then the type of information that this is providing is that this is the framing plan, okay? If you want to be more specific, it's the framing elevation. So that's what we're going to type or print here, is framing elevation. Okay? And try and center it in the box as best you can. Now, I'll come back and erase these lines later. The next box, I want to have my client's information. In this case, I'm going to write what you will be writing. The client for you is your teacher, in this case, Mr. Bell. So I am your client. So what you would put here for your client, first of all, let's label this client information. So we know what we're doing. Okay. Your client is Mr. Bell. I'm going to fit in here Mr. Bell, room A2, okay? That's what I want you guys to write. I want you to write Mr. I'm thinking about this in my mind. Bell, room, A2. That'll fit. I could have put TOHS A2. Yeah, let's do that. Hold on 1 second. Let me erase this. I left out Thousand Oaks High School. TOHS. TOHS. Room A2. Client info is Mr. Bell, TOHS, room A2. I will be the client for your project. You are doing this for me to grade, to be specific. The next section is the draftsman info. So let's put on here draftsman info. Okay, and the draftsman is you. You are the draftsman. You're the architect in this particular situation. So you're going to put your name here. I don't know what your name is because this could be one of any of my students who is watching this video. So you're going to have to write in whatever your name is. In addition, down here in the little box, I want you to write your class. Where is it? Let me look at my notes. Class name and your class period. So if your class name is construction technology, then you should put construction technology period, whatever period you have my class. If you're doing this for my woodworking class, then you put woodworking principles or whatever woodworking class you're in, period, whatever period you have. If you're in my architectural drawing class or my CAD class, computer aided design, then you put computer aided design or CAD, period, whatever. For the sake of this one, I'm just going to type in or write in what it is I want you to write as a label, and then you guys will have to fill in the actual answer. So I'm going to put class name. You do not type this, or you do not write class name. I want you to write whatever the name of your class is, though. Okay. So class name period. I'm going to put a question mark because I don't know what period you're in. You're going to have to put your actual period, and I'm just going to put your name. I don't know what that is either. You'll have to fill that in with whatever your actual name is. So this, you guys will have to put in your information. Don't actually write that. And then this last area up here, if you have multiple revisions, if I have to look at this, every time I give it back to you, you're going to have to put a new revision in here. So this is for revisions. That's common. Usually in blueprint drafting, the draftsman will create a blueprint. Then the builder or the architect or whomever is going to be in charge of the project will take it to the city. The city has a building department that will review the plans, and they will certify them as good to go with whatever the city's policies are and give you approval to build it, or they will send it back and say, you need to revise this. This does not meet code, or it doesn't meet our specifications, or we just don't think that this is going to be a good fit. So sometimes you have several revisions that the city will make you revise things. So we're just going to call this revisions. Okay. Now, sometimes here you'll have a scale as well. We didn't add scale to this because we're going to add the box for scale up here in what we call a key. So in order to add the key, while we still have this in close range, we're going to measure out a spot to do that. And it's basically going to be 1 inch in from this top edge and 1 inch over from the drafting line edge. So again, because my ruler is exactly 1 inch, I can do this a little bit easier by putting a really light line here. Put my paper over here for a second. If your ruler is not 1 inch, then you cannot do this. You'll have to measure it out. But you're going to need to have a line that's 1 inch from this edge and 1 inch from this edge. And the box, the key that we're going to create here, is going to be 1 inch in this direction. So you can measure down 1 inch. I'm just going to actually trace another line here. Okay. And it needs to be 2 inches over. So let's see if I grab the correct side of my ruler. I can put a mark here at 2. I can put a mark here at 2. And I'm going to use these 2 dots to connect them. And then I have all this extra that I drew. I need to get rid of all of that to make this neat. And then we're going to label this key, and we're going to put scale on here. Okay. So let's have a really nice 3/8 mark in here. We're going to put in a very, very, very light line again, just the weight of the pencil. And it's very light, that way I can just barely see it. It's just to help me draw a nice straight line for the word scale. Okay, so we're going to put the scale at the top, and then we're going to put what the actual scale is, which is for every 1/8 of an inch that we draw, it's going to represent what 1 inch would be in real life. You need two tick marks. You need the quote mark. If you have just one, it represents feet, but both 2 quote marks are 2 commas or quote mark like this would represent inches. So this says 1/8 inch equals 1 inch. Okay, that's the scale that we are going to be drawing to. All right, so that's the first part of creating our blueprint. Hopefully you guys were able to draw, move this camera back up, the entire title box. I'm going to break this video up into several parts so that you can digest it. That is part 1. Hopefully you got that done without any problems. If you have any questions, please let me know. When you come back, I will start working with you to draw the walls.